So, 5 mixing mistakes. I have seen them done so many times by so many people. I am going to tell you what they are and how to resolve them. Welcome back to the Thomann studio and recording channel. My name is Claudio. I'm a music producer and I run this amazing studios here in central London called Dr. Mix. If you're into mixing, into mastering, into production techniques, you should definitely subscribe to this channel. Bing! And also ring that bell, ding, so that you don't miss out on the beautiful content coming out on this channel. Let's dive into mixing. Alright, so running a music mixing, mastering and production service, I have seen quite a few mixes in my life and I recognize some mistakes that come around all the time. And I will start with the first one, which is overloading a mix. It all starts with the bad habit of recording music too loud. What happens is you start compounding bass, drums, keyboards, guitars, and by the time you add the vocals, everything has become literally too loud and you are saturating the stereo bus, like in this example, right? So when it comes to mixing, the first thing that I suggest you do is you go to your clips, you select all of them, and you start pulling them down all together until the mix starts having a little bit of air there, you know? I would always start a mix around this level. You don't want to hit more than -10, -12, you know, possibly even more. Because, you know, you have space, don't worry. It's not the time of tape anymore where you had to record loud, otherwise you would get too much noise out of it. These machines can take every nuance of dynamics. So you can keep the level down and you will not have any problem with your noise level, all right? So this is called gain staging, and I'm gonna make a video just about gain staging. But you know, the concept is that if you record one track, like for example, I've got a drum track here, as you can notice, I have left quite a bit of space now there, yeah? And that's because I want to leave space for compression to happen. I want to leave space for a little bit of excitement as I keep on mixing, because you know, you want to add elements, you want to get a bigger and louder sound, so inevitably you are gonna be louder. Leave a little bit of space to do that. And again, I'm gonna talk about it in the upcoming gain staging video. But for now, just be careful not to overload your master bus. Next, messy low end. So the low end has a peculiar characteristic, which is it takes a lot of energy to be reproduced. If you notice, you know, if you go to a concert, you can feel that the low end is like moving your body, and if you look at the speakers, you can see that the speakers are moving to the sound of the bass. That's because the bass is the one that carries the most energy. Let me demonstrate that so quickly, yeah? I'm gonna go to my master bus and just take this equalizer, yeah? Now check out. Okay, if I pull up the low end, I've already saturating right there, see? Now check if I do it on the top end. Hardly anything happens, you see? Low end, top end, right? So that is just a quick demonstration. So what does this mean? It means that you have to be careful how much bass you use, and you want to make sure that the bass is used just for the stuff that is fundamental to the bass. So that may be the kick drum, that may be the bass, and maybe a synthesizer that has a bass roll. Everything else, you can cut the bass out of it. Let me show you how. So for example, let's take this Rhodes, yeah? Okay, I'm going to loop it, and you see all of this information? That's information that we don't need. You may as well just turn the low cut filter and get rid of it. This will make space for your bass. And when I say filter out, I mean filter out everywhere. Maybe this is a bit too much, you know, we want to filter out, you know, just about 100 maybe. But, you know, this happens on every track, so it will compound, you know. Let's see this Juno 6. Let's listen to it, yeah? See this? You don't really need all this, right? You can just cut it out. All right? Do it on every track where you don't need the bass, and your mud will be removed from your mix. Next, overcompression. So, compression is fun. It makes things loud, it makes things full of character, it gives you all the nuances of the sound, but it can also kill your dynamic range and make your music sound flat, right? Let me give you an example. If I take my master bus, yeah, and it's here, my stereo out, right? So I now insert invisible limiter, which is one of my favorite limiters out there, all right? So when you crank it up, it starts sounding really, really cool, doesn't it? Right? I mean, you go from here to here, all right? But as you progress into the mix, you may be using it and then you maybe get louder into the mix and then you're squashing it more because the limiter is there or the compressor is there. And I have seen so many times a mix coming like this. You know, even if you pull it down, right? Right? You see what happens? And I can understand that with some styles, you know, this sort of distortion gets confused between the distorted guitar and maybe some raw vocals, and you don't realize that you're saturating the entire mix. That's a no-no. So my suggestion is pull down those compressors, and also instead of using a lot of compression on just one plugin, use two plugins, one after the other, and compress a little bit with the first one and a little bit with the second one. So you will obtain more compression, more aggressiveness, but not so many artifacts. If that makes sense. Does it make sense? Of course it makes sense. Let's go to the next. Too much effect. So effects are great. All right, so reverb is awesome. I love reverb, but you know, sometimes it's just you know, using reverb for the sakes of using reverb can be a mistake. You know, for example, let's check. I don't know, maybe this sound here. You know what? I want to use a little bit more limiter here. All right, this sound, which is pretty cool, yeah? Of course, if you give it a little bit of reverb, it's gonna sound, you know, like in space, and that's super fun and it's super good. You can add, say, for example, one of my favorites, which is Valhalla. Valhalla vintage verb, and then we call this verb, yeah? So now we have it right there, and so, right? So it makes sense, right? There is a lot of reverb right now. Right? So in my opinion, the general rule is if you can hear the reverb clearly, then probably you're using too much. All right? A reverb is only supposed to put the sound into a space so that it doesn't sound like it's coming from, you know, from within you, but it's actually coming from outside of you, and your brain can process the position of the instrument. So I say use effects always moderately, because you just don't want to throw in reverb just because you can do it. If you use a reverb, use it with good taste and for the scope and the purpose of recreating a virtual ambience along with your music. Yes? Next, wrong balance. At the end of the day, mixing is all about balance. You know, the way the kick drum sits with the bass, the way the snare drum sits on top of the kick drum, and the balance of the drums, and the balance of the vocals against the drums and against the harmony. So, and I understand that it can be confusing, or maybe sometimes you have not a clear idea of where to place your instruments and your vocals in terms of loudness. So my suggestion is A-B. A-B your mix against another mix. Could be a similar artist, maybe an artist that you like, maybe a genre that is close to your genre. And then all of a sudden you're not mixing anymore in a vacuum, right? You're not just self-referenced, but you can push a button and see how your mix compares to your reference mix. That informs you greatly. You can just go simply, are my drums a lot louder than this mix? Yeah, maybe I should pull them down, you know? So that is my best suggestion that I have. You know, unless you have been mixing for a long time, or you're a long-established artist and you know how you like your mix to be and your balance, you have formed your opinion on it. If you're just attempting, then I would really strongly recommend that you A-B against mixes that you like. I'm going to leave a link in the description because I have tackled A-Bing in a previous episode here at the Thomann Studio Recording channel. In the meantime, I hope you're doing super well and that you are staying inspired, making great music. See you next time.